My top 5 original Xbox games, starting with number 5, Half-Life 2. Half-Life 2 is easily one of the best sequels I've ever played. It took every element of the original that made it very innovative for the time, improved it, and added a ton of new gameplay mechanics that were largely unrivaled at the time. Everything about this world felt truly alive with the completely realistic interactions of everyone in the different environments. Graphically, it was astounding for the time. I still prefer, mostly sentimentally, the original Half-Life, but overall Half-Life 2 is a fantastic game and one of my favorite games that I played on the original Xbox. Number 4, Panzer Dragoon Orta. This is one of these series that I want Sega to bring back more than any other. It's easily near the top of my list. The classic Sega Saturn series returns in full force with Panzer Dragoon Orta on the original Xbox, and for a fantastic exclusive. This game is incredible. It still looks good. I mean, I honestly think this is one of the best looking games on the original Xbox. Controls amazingly. It goes back to the slightly more arcade style roots of the first two games as compared to Saga, and does a fantastic job though of keeping the idea of a story alive and a unique world alive with different unlockables like encyclopedias, and you can even unlock the original Panzer Dragoon. It is fast-paced action at its best, and this is still such an amazing series. It's sad that we haven't seen another true entry since, but the series went out with a bang. Number 3 is one of the most underrated games of all time, and something that is just painfully unfulfilled potential, Advent Rising. It's the story of a studio that bit off more than they can chew and couldn't quite reach all the goals they set for themselves. It is a buggy game, full of flaws. It ends on a cliffhanger because it's part 1 of a trilogy that was set up, but if you're able to look past all the issues that it has, performance-wise, expect random sound glitches, crashing, etc., what you have is an incomplete masterpiece. It is absolutely fantastic. The soundtrack is one of my favorites of all time for gaming. The story is incredible. The screenplay itself was written by sci-fi author Orson Scott Card. It is a truly spectacular game, one of the best on the original Xbox. If you don't include all the technical flaws that it has, with the studio just not really being able to handle the size of the project they gave themselves and the complexity, I absolutely adore this game from start to finish, and it has an incredibly unique control scheme that's never been implemented since, that everyone seems to be on a love it or hate it relationship with. The flick targeting system that it has, I personally love it. I found it incredibly fun to use, and as you progress through the game, become practically a superpowered Jedi. It's such a cool system, a fantastic world and story. It's an amazing game, and this is one I am actually going to do a much longer video talking about later in the year, because I think it's such a special experience that is completely lost and forgotten and will never see the conclusion to this story. Number 2 is The Elder Scrolls III: Morrowind. This is easily my favorite Elder Scrolls game. I don't think anything will ever come close. I adore this game. This is one of my all-time favorite games produced by a Western studio. This, to me, has all the charm of the first two Elder Scrolls games, finally fully realized, plus everything that the Elder Scrolls would become. I love how it's so unforgiving and brutal, really, and how it gives you no true guidance. It just kind of leaves you in this world. It just feels so much more alive and thriving, and in many ways, to me, feels more like a living single-player Dungeons & Dragons campaign than, say, the later entries in the series. I found the world itself to be by far the most fascinating, even more so than something like Skyrim. To me, this world that it created here in the original and with the 2 expansion sets is by far the best thing that Bethesda has ever created. And I feel like there's this real, almost magical alien charm to this game that hasn't quite been matched. To me, overall, Morrowind is just a remarkable experience and a game that I played heavily on the original Xbox. Number 1 is no surprise if you're a fan of my channel, Shenmue II. And yes, I do prefer the original Dreamcast version of this game overall with the Japanese voice acting, but I originally played Shenmue II on the Xbox. In fact, this is the sole reason why I bought an original Xbox. If it hadn't been for this game, I might not have experienced this system until many years later, but I went and as soon as I saw Shenmue II in the store, I picked it up with an original Xbox when I was not intending to buy one that day. Yes, bought an entire system just pretty much for Shenmue II, and I didn't regret it at all. I loved this game. I think it took everything that was amazing about the first game and multiplied it. I think it took what was already a frankly life-changing experience as far as a game and expanded upon it to the point where Shenmue II is still in my top 5 games of all time, and I think it will remain up there forever. Shenmue II is an endlessly remarkable experience, and I'm very glad to have experienced it on the original Xbox. Even though I do like the Dreamcast version better, it does have a few flaws compared to that version, but also has a few improvements, and overall it's just a slightly different experience. And it's fun as someone who played through with those questionable dubs in the first game to be able to continue and play through the second game with that dub in this very unique version exclusive to the original Xbox. It is an incredible game, a timeless classic, and tops my list of my top 5 original Xbox games.